Apart from that, a lot of people actually buy a $300,000 house and they end up with a couple of $100,000 mortgage easily, 240 in this case. Yeah, and it's their own home, they're living in it. Interesting thing is that what they're going to do, for every $100,000 they've got in the deal on your own home, you're going to have to earn $376,000 roughly to pay that loan out for every $100,000. So if you've got, in this case we're saying $240,000, so you're going to have 376 twice and virtually half that again. So it's another what, 150, 190,000. So that's what you're going to have. So what's that? 3, 6, 750, 8. So it's about 940. You're going to have to earn $940,000 personally to pay the $240,000 that you owe out, because the 940 you've got to earn before tax, pay tax on it, to then be left with the money to pay that out. That's before you live. Does that sound like the great Australian dream? Because to me that sounds like an absolute bloody nightmare. That is not something that anyone should be getting into, and unfortunately a lot of the young people in society have been pushed down that path to think that owning your own home is a great asset. That's total bullshit. It is not a great asset unless you steal that property. What do I mean by that? Unless you steal that property for nothing. If someone's falling over and you get that property for half price and you're not putting as much into the deal, or in this case, if you end up with a $240,000 loan but you've got a property that's worth $600,000 and you can cash out easily and pull your money back out of it, then that's a deal worth considering. But if you're not doing that, and it's leveraged, like in most cases, they're leveraged up to 80, 90, 95%, in some cases 100% because of the first homeowners grant, there's no money in the deal. Whenever you get into strife, you're never going to be able to sell that property. You are going to lose, you're going to end up broke. You do not want to do that deal. I'm going to explain more on these numbers in another video because it's so important. I want people to understand it. I'll actually draw it up as we go through. But right now I wanted to make that mention, sidetracking a little bit. So we've talked about the Australian typical $300,000 home. Now I want to talk about what happens in the US. In the US, let's just say you're paying $35,000 for a house. Not 10, 15, 20, which is what we're buying properties for, but let's just say it's $35,000. So this is one that's been renovated, it's got a tenant in it, and it's just sit and forget. The house valuation in 2009 or the beginning of 2010 could be anywhere from 105 to 130,000, 150,000 and more. Yeah. So remembering that this is a property that's probably had some slight renos done on it, so it probably was bought for 10 or 20 grand and it's just done some renos. Now, you know, it's sold for 35. The loan to valuation ratio on that is not as high because of the international investor, so it's only going to be 70% LVR, not 80%. And that'll be on your buy price. So what you do is you settle first, then go and refinance later. The deposit in this case is going to be $10,500. Remember, $35,000 is the buy price. 24.5 is going to be the eventual bank loan. Initially, though, you're going to put the $35,000 down, buy the house, then go and refinance the house. So you're going to then pull your $24,500 back out. So your total left in the deal is only $10,500. You've got some closing costs and duties, which is $3,500. No stamp duty. Yeah. Absolute magnificent, no stamp duty in the US when you buy property. We get smashed in Australia when we do it this way because we pay stamp duty here. Like ridiculous stamp duty. We don't do that in the US. You also don't pay capital gains tax in the US when you sell a property. If you sell your property and you roll that property over into another property deal, you don't pay capital gains tax. If you take it out, you will. Yeah, but what you do is you roll it over into another property and then you actually then leverage the property with debt to get your cash out. Yeah, makes sense? Okay, let's move on. So you had $3,500 in costs and duties, not 20 like you had before. You've only got $3,500 here. Might seem high relative to what you've paid for the property, but remembering that you've bought it so far under value. Loan, your rental in this case is $9,600. So these properties are renting for about $800 a week and higher. $800 a month, not a week, $800 a month, so $9,600 a year. Your loan repayments are going to be $1,850 at the current borrowing rates. $1,850 on a $24,500 loan. Do you think you can afford to pay for $1,850 in loan repayments if you're getting $9,600 back cash flow? Absolutely. Your costs and rates and insurance are around about $3,000. Okay, so and let's just say the management fees are about the same. It's about $1,250. So what's the cash on cash return? In this case, you've got an annual income of $9,600. You've got a net operating profit of $9,600 less the cost. The cost being that your rates, you've got your rates, insurances, and you've also got your management fees. So that leaves you with a balance of $5,350. That's $9,600 subtract the $4,250. That's $5,350. Then you've got your debt servicing. Well, you actually owe $1,850 per annum to repay the property. So that's $150, $155 a month by 12 months. That's a month, not a week, a month. Yeah. So now your annual cash flow is $5,350. Subtract that $1,850, which gives you $3,500. Clear cash, profit, clear cash in your pocket. Yeah, not taking any money out; it's putting it back in your pocket. Cash investment. Remember, $10,500 is what you invested. You invested the whole 35, but then you leveraged it back out from the bank to get your 24.5 back. Yeah, in borrowing. So you're only left with 10.5 in the deal, leaving you the balance, the other 24.5, to go and do another deal. Yeah. So you've got $10,500. You've now got to, in this case, add the cash invested that you put into the deal at the start, which was $3.5. Yeah. So it gives you a total inward cost of $14,000. So now, to work out your cash on cash return, your net gain in your pocket from your rentals after your costs is $3,500. Divide that by $14,000, which is the total money you've got in the deal now. Yeah, not $80,000 like you had in the other Australian deal, but you've now got $14,000 in the deal. You've now got a 25% positive cash on cash return. Positive cash on cash return. So one deal, you had $300,000 in that deal, a $300,000 deal, and you had $80,000 because you had stamp duties, which was high, and you also had your deposit, $60,000. Yeah, to buy a $300,000 property. Here you've got $10,000 in the deal and you're buying a property that's worth $135,000. So it makes far more sense, and the property's paying for itself. And it's below replacement cost, so you can't actually lose. Paying for itself, below replacement costs, you cannot lose. Yeah, you could afford to hold that property with no tenants in it, yeah, if you had to. That's what you need to consider here. That's why the market's so good. Hope that made sense. I'm now going to give you another video in a few minutes, just explaining some key points about what we've just been through. So I look forward to sharing that with you. Cheers.